I am the Vice President of Communications and Team Services for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And what I do, my duties have evolved over the years. My current responsibilities on the communication side is pretty much everything media relations related. Publications, we put together all of our written materials, game programs, media guides, things like that. We work with all of our players on any appearance requests that they need out in the community through our corporate partnerships, foundation partners, and any working with media broadcasters when they help them cover the games. Pretty much traditional PR role. A few years ago, I took on the team services responsibilities, and we really enhanced what we were doing in that regard. And what team services is, it involves everything from travel arrangements for the team when we go to road games, making sure we have the plane to take us there, the bus to pick us up, and hotel rooms to stay at while we're gone. But beyond that, it is everything from when we get a new player or coach, helping that individual and their families get acclimated in the community, working with our partners like Huntington Bank, Nationwide Insurance, if they need to transfer and open bank accounts here, working with Coldwell Banker and our real estate partners to help them find housing. Anything that gets them, educate them about the city. You know, the one thing is somebody being from near Columbus. I grew up about an hour north of here in Galion, Ohio. But having gone to school here and lived here, Columbus is a tremendous, tremendous city. And it's grown a lot since I was sitting out where you guys are. But it's really kind of a best-kept secret. A lot of people really know and appreciate Columbus until they spend time here. And we found that with our athletes. They had no idea that Columbus was as big as it is and had so much to offer. So when we have guys come, we put together a player relocation handbook, which basically has information, every bit of information that the player, his wife or girlfriend, their families can need to educate them about neighborhoods and schools and things to do and restaurants and all of those things. Because especially when you're talking about acquiring new players through free agency and getting people to want to come and play here, obviously money is the most important thing. Or at least that's the highest part. That usually has a tendency to be weighted a little more heavily than others. But it's also where you want to live. And if you've never been and spent time in Columbus, let's face it, it's not LA, it's not New York, it's not Chicago. But what we found is when people have come here, that they love it. And we're starting to build a group of alumni who stay here after they have retired. We have one of our former players, Freddie Modine, who had played most of his career in Tampa. He'd played in Toronto. He came here, and then his last year played in Atlanta. He's from Sweden. And especially with European guys, mostly they will go back to their home countries, their hometowns, and that's where they make their homes when they retire. But Freddie and his family loved Dublin so much, and their kids love the school, that now they'll go back there for the summer, but then they're back by the time school starts, and they make their homes here year-round. And that's an important part of what we do. How did I get where I am now? Like I said, I'm a graduate of Ohio State. I've got an undergraduate degree in journalism and a master's degree in sport management. I tell the story that I kind of stumbled into my career. I was originally, I thought I wanted to be a business major. And then I took my first undergraduate business math class, and it went so well that I went to my advisor and said, I got to find another major where I have to take no more math because this is just not working for me. So we talked about what I like to do, and I like to write. I like that English classes, comparative studies classes I really enjoyed. She's like, well, have you ever thought about journalism? I said, all right, I'll give that a shot. And I really did. I really liked what I was doing. I wrote for the Lantern. At the time, the School of Journalism consisted of you were either a news ed major, a PR major, an advertising major, or a broadcast major. And if I chose public relations, and if you did that, you had to work at the Lantern, and that was a tremendous training ground for me. I covered the men's basketball team for a year. And what it showed me was it really gave me an appreciation for what the media do, but it also showed me I did not want to be a member of the media. I wanted to kind of focus more on the positives positive news and sharing positive stories. So I thought working for a team or a university would be much more my cup of tea as opposed to working for a newspaper. So I got an internship in the sports information office at Ohio State my last year as an undergrad. The first team I worked with was women's tennis, and I worked with a number of teams over the next 2.5 years. I decided to stay here, get my master's in sport management, and I worked so much in sports information that I probably could have got done. We were on a quarter system at the time in 4 or 5 quarters, but I went a full 6 because I was getting such good experience working. I was working football, basketball. That was my first exposure to hockey, baseball, softball, soccer, just a tremendous training ground. And then back in the archaic days of the early 90s, as I was getting close to graduation, I was mailing resumes to everybody. And this was before websites. So you had to literally dig through the COSIDA handbook and through the NCAA news and all these archaic methods to find out who might be hiring, and you just fired resumes off to everybody you could. But through a person I worked with at Ohio State, they asked me if I'd be interested in working for a minor league hockey team. I said, where? And they said, they gave me 6 cities of a new league that was starting, and one of them was Dallas, Texas. And I said, yeah, I'd really be interested there. Because when I decided to be a PR major and work in sports, I knew I wanted to work in pro sports, and I wanted to be the PR director for the Dallas Cowboys. That was my dream job, and I figured, all right, work for a minor league hockey team, and who knows where it'll take you. Well, 24 years later, I'm still in hockey. I spent 2 years in Dallas, one with a minor league team, one with the Stars when they relocated from Minnesota. 5 years in Houston working for a minor league hockey team, and then I moved back to Columbus in the fall of '99 to pursue a job with the Blue Jackets before they started, and was fortunate enough to be hired as the director of communications in February of 2000, so about 7 months before our first game. And my duties have evolved over the years. The technology and social media and the digital realm has been a complete game changer for what I do, and it's forced me to adapt and how we operate. But the one thing I'll say before passing it on, and bore you too much, is the one thing I always tell students who want to work in sports, who come up to me and say, I want to do what you do, or I want to work in sports. I love sports. I've loved sports all my life. That is the worst thing you can say right out of the box to somebody who works for a sports team or an organization or a federation or anything like that, because if you're there, that's kind of assumed. And the fact that you played sports your whole life and that you've always been a fan is not going to it doesn't mean squat, to be perfectly honest, about getting a career and getting a job in sports. The thing to remember is whether you work for a team as I do, or an ESPN, or a university, or a website as Eric does, they operate as businesses. We're a business. We have an accounting department. We have a marketing department. We have multiple sales departments. We have a community relations department. And just because I love sports, just because I've worked in sports for 20-some years, I couldn't get a job at a different team working in the accounting department, because I don't know anything about it. The point being is, when you work in sports, and everybody here will tell you, it's not a 9-to-5 job. We had a game last night. I got to work at 8. I got home at 11. I travel with the team about half the time. Now that I have some seniority, I can kind of pick and choose. So I go to California. My assistant goes to Edmonton. That's just the way it works. When he's the boss, then he can flip that. But not right now. But it's not a 9-to-5 job. Look at it like you spend all day in class, or you may have a job and you work all day. And what do you want to do to blow off steam at night? You're going to go to the hockey game at 7 o'clock and have a couple of beverages and enjoy it and just have fun. Well, everybody that's putting that on for you has been at their job since probably you got to your job that morning, and they're still doing it. So the key is to find a specialty that you're passionate about. For me, it started out as with writing, and that's kind of the basis of it. But some people love numbers, some people love sales, marketing, idea generation, graphic design, we have a legal department, an HR department, because the novelty of working in sports wears off, especially when you're working 12, 13 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week for 8 months out of the year. You have to have a passion for what it is that you do. And there probably isn't a major here at the university in a field of study that you can be involved with that you can apply to a career in sports. It's all applicable because it's all, at the end of the day, a business.